All right, so we're diving into Confessions of a Serial Entrepreneur, this book by Trevor Nel that everyone's talking about. And we're going to figure out why people love it so much. And more importantly, for our listeners, how you can actually use it, to unlock some serious profit in your business.
Yeah, what I love about Nell is he doesn't waste time with, all the usual business jargon. He gets right down to it, the nitty-gritty, what it actually takes to build a successful business.
Hmm.
And he does it in this really approachable way, like you're
Hmm.
just having a coffee with a friend who's,
Yeah,
been there, done that, and wants to share what they've learned.
absolutely. And he throws out this stat right off the bat. Only 4% of businesses make it past the 10-year mark. I mean, wow, that's kind of scary when you think about it.
Yeah, right. It's a wake-up call for sure. But here's the thing. He doesn't leave you hanging on that doom and gloom. He follows it up with this other idea. Most businesses, and we're talking like a huge majority here,
Yeah.
are leaving somewhere between 45 and 60% of their potential profit just sitting there on the table, untouched. Like it's just money they're leaving on the sidewalk.
Okay, that's depressing and encouraging at the same time.
Mhm.
Depressing because, wow, so much wasted potential. But encouraging because it means even small improvements can make a huge difference to our bottom line, right? So how do we tap into this hidden profit? What's the secret sauce?
Well, Nell lays out this thing he calls the Growth Profit Driver Series. And it's all about breaking down the path to success into actionable steps, things you can actually do. And he covers everything from mindset and relationships to, how you manage your resources and capital. But get this, he starts with something you might not expect. Philosophy.
Philosophy? Hold on, you're talking about like Socrates and Aristotle. What does that have to do with boosting profits?
I know, right? That's what I thought too. But Nell actually makes a really compelling case that your business philosophy, your fundamental beliefs about what it takes to succeed, that's actually the foundation for everything else. He even has this, I know, another acronym, the ABCs of success. But stick with me here. This isn't your typical cheesy motivational stuff.
Okay, you've got my attention. What's so special about these ABCs? Spill the beans.
Well, the C, which stands for commitment, that's where things get really interesting. See, it's not about setting these huge, overwhelming goals that are going to just stress you out. Nell's all about breaking things down into smaller, manageable chunks, starting small, building momentum. And here's the kicker, focusing on helping others succeed.
Okay, so it's not just about me. It's about lifting others up as well.
Yeah, exactly. He believes that by genuinely contributing to someone else's journey, you actually build momentum for yourself. You create this kind of ripple effect that ultimately benefits you as well.
So it's about building that positive momentum, one small win at a time. I like that.
Exactly. And it's not just some abstract concept either. Nell actually shares how he used this very principle to transform a struggling education franchise, one that was really on the ropes, into this multi-million-dollar success story.
See, this is what I love about Nell. He's not just some armchair expert. He walks the walk. So we've got the right mindset, that commitment to small wins, helping others, all that good stuff. What's next? What's the next building block?
Next up is business strategy. And Nell argues that this is where the biggest transformations happen in a business. And it's not necessarily about working harder, but about working smarter, being more strategic. He even shares this pretty incredible story about how he used strategic thinking to help transform the safety of his entire community, not by throwing money at the problem, but by rallying people around a shared strategic vision.
That's amazing. He took this business concept and applied it to create real-world impact. I'm guessing this wasn't just about writing a mission statement, sticking it on the wall, and calling it a day.
Not at all. Nell is all about action. And here's where it gets really interesting. He talks about how he used videos to communicate his vision. Now, this might seem obvious today, but back then, it was a pretty revolutionary idea.
Yeah, and let's be honest, even today, a lot of businesses still aren't using video to its full potential. But a well-crafted video can be so powerful, right? For explaining complex ideas, getting stakeholders on board, even attracting investors.
Absolutely. It's about meeting people where they are and communicating your message in a way that resonates, a way that sticks with them.
So we've talked about mindset and we've talked about strategy, and they're both super important, right?
Yeah.
Two sides of the same coin. But what good is a killer strategy if you don't have the right people around you to help you execute it?
You're totally right. You can't do it alone. And Nell actually addresses that head on with his next profit driver, which is, you guessed it, relationships. And he makes this really interesting point. He says that most of your income, like the lion's share of it, will probably come from just a handful, surprisingly small number, of key relationships.
That's interesting. It makes sense when you hear it, but it's also kind of scary, isn't it? Because what if I haven't found those key people yet?
That's a great question, and that's where Nell gets really practical. He gives you actual tools to use. He doesn't just tell you to network more. He lays out this framework for building what he calls an inner circle business forum.
Okay, so break that down for me. What exactly is an inner circle? It sounds kind of exclusive, right? Like a secret society or something.
Uh-huh. Not quite a secret society, but I get what you mean. It's not about being exclusive. It's more about being intentional about who you surround yourself with. Nell's point is that you've got to have people around you who really get your vision, people who challenge you to be better, to think bigger, and who can open doors that you didn't even know existed. But here's the thing. It's not just about what you can get out of these relationships. It's about what you can give as well. It's a two-way street.
Yeah, I think that's so important. It's easy to fall into that trap of thinking, okay, I need to network so I can find investors, or I need to get more clients. But you're saying it's more about mutual benefit, about creating something bigger together.
Exactly. You hit the nail on the head.
Hmm.
It's about collaboration, not just extraction. In fact, Nell even quotes Buckminster Fuller, the architect and futurist.
Oh, yeah, I know Buckminster Fuller.
So Fuller had this whole concept of synergetics.
Huh.
Basically, the idea that when you combine the right elements, the whole becomes greater than the sum of its parts.
Yeah.
And Nell takes that idea and applies it to relationships, right? He argues that the potential for real innovation, for breakthroughs, it just grows exponentially. With every high-quality connection, you add to the mix.
So it's not just about collecting business cards at some networking event. It's about building real, genuine connections with people who, like you said, get you, who share your values, and who can help you level up your game.
100%. And Nell gives a bunch of reasons why this kind of inner circle is so powerful. But the one that always sticks with me is this idea of keeping yourself fresh.
What does he mean by that?
It's about avoiding stagnation. It's so easy to get stuck in our own little bubbles,
Surrounded by people who already agree with us, who think just like us.
and that can be really comforting, but it can also stifle creativity. Nell's point is that by connecting with people who have different perspectives, different experiences, you're constantly challenging your own assumptions, pushing yourself to grow.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So how do we actually find these people? I mean, I can't just walk up to someone and be like, hey, I want to be in my inner circle.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That might not go over so well, but Nell actually suggests.
Okay, so no awkward pickup lines at networking events. But seriously, how do we go about building this inner circle organically? It can't just happen by accident, right?
Right, it takes effort, but it's not about forcing it. Nell emphasizes that it's all about being genuinely interested in other people.
Yeah.
Providing value, adding to the conversation without expecting anything in return, and then nurturing those relationships over the long term.
It's about building real connections, not just transactional ones.
Exactly. He even tells this story in the book about how he secured funding for his investment fund. And it wasn't through some big-time VC firm or anything. It was actually through a friend he'd been supporting, just being a good friend to for years. And that really highlights, the power of playing the long game when it comes to relationships.
Building that trust, showing up consistently, it all adds up.
Absolutely. Those unexpected connections, the ones that come from just being genuinely helpful, those are often the ones that lead to the biggest breakthroughs in business and in life, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And this whole inner circle thing, it actually reminds me of something else Nell talks about, the dream team concept.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
It's like taking that idea of surrounding yourself with the right people and kind of blowing it out, applying it to every area of your business.
Totally. He wants you to think about, who are the ideal people you'd want on your team? The advisors, the mentors, even just collaborators who could really help you take things to the next level. And he asks this really thought-provoking question. He says, if you could assemble a dream team for your business, who would be on it and WHY?
I love that question. It gets you thinking big picture, but also really specific about what you need to succeed.
Right. It makes you think about your strengths, your weaknesses, the gaps you need to fill.
Absolutely. And it doesn't have to be some celebrity CEO or anything.
Yeah, it could be someone you already know.
Exactly. A friend, a former colleague, even a family member who just always keeps it real with you.
Someone who challenges you in the best way possible.
It's about recognizing the talent and the potential that already exists within your network. Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground today. We've talked about mindset, strategy, relationships, building your dream team. But as you're listening to this, I want you to remember Nell's book, it's not just about inspiring ideas, it's about accession.
He practices what he preaches, that's for sure.
So as you go back to your business, think about one thing, just one thing that really resonated with you from this conversation.
Maybe it's that idea of breaking things down into smaller chunks so you don't get overwhelmed. Or maybe it's finally creating that video you've been putting off. Or reaching out to someone you admire just to start a conversation.
Whatever it is, commit to taking action this week. Don't let this knowledge just sit there in your brain.
Turn it into something real, something tangible.
And remember, you don't have to do it all alone. Build that dream team, even if it's just starting with one key person, one thought partner.
And watch how those relationships, those collaborations can really help you grow, both personally and professionally.
That's a wrap on our deep dive into Confessions of a Serial Entrepreneur. We've barely scratched the surface of what this book has to offer, so stay tuned for more deep dives, where we'll unpack even more profit-driving strategies from Nell and other amazing thinkers. Until then, keep learning, keep growing, and keep unlocking your full potential.